Hi everybody, welcome to this week's KFIR Middle East update. It's the week of September 3rd, and I want to encourage you to make sure you grab the PDF PowerPoint that accompanies this presentation, and you can get that at our website on holygroundexploration.com, or on the YouTube channel. You can just click the link. You want to make sure you grab this as we make our way through this week's session. We always start with our news bites. Quite a bit, obviously, going on in the Middle East, the implications of the withdrawal from the United States and Afghanistan. We still don't know how that's going to play out, but we do know that there are issues at stake. When we think about what happened over the last couple of weeks, one of the things, just to remind you, is that there was an IDF soldier that was killed. We always pay tribute, not to the terrorist, but to the soldier himself. You'll see in one of our slides the fallen IDF soldier, Barrel Shamuli, 21 years old, shot in Gaza, point blank range. And part of our news bites is the fact that here's this so-called Hamas wanting to establish some sort of ceasefire, peace. They want, of course, aid and money. The Palestinians in Gaza have passed out candies in celebration of the death of the IDF soldier who was shot by terrorists. A time of celebration because an IDF soldier was killed. There's your peace partner for you. COVID in Israel is just literally spinning out of control. The new daily COVID-19 cases hit a new record on Wednesday. Trying to make sense out of all this is impossible. We've got the most vaccinated country in the world, population percentage-wise, and they're being ravaged by COVID. Apparently, the Delta strain isn't as virulent as others. The serious, even though it's new record highs, the serious cases of patients continue to drop, the morbidity aspect of it. But the country, once again, is pushing for massive drives to get the third booster shot. I can't make sense out of everything here as far as COVID, vaccinations, etc. Hamas, last week, ABBAS met with Benny GANTZ while Naftali Bennett was in the U.S., and there are ramifications. This is the first face-to-face meeting between high-ranking Israelis versus Palestinians, and this should be of major concern to Hamas. They should be worried about this move. Here's the bottom line, is that, ABBAS, I think, is 86. I think we mentioned last week that he's finishing his 17th year of a 4-year term. And the question is who's going to replace him, his bad health, etc. Hamas probably would win the popular vote, but this negotiations, or the beginning of this, is going to be a boom for Fatah. And so this should be of grave concern to the members of Hamas. Regarding Gaza, don't be surprised if there continues to be an escalation, the riots at the border, the death that we just talked about of the IDF soldier. I have a sneaking suspicion that over the next week, 2 weeks, there'll be a major incursion once again, another flare-up, another so-called war with Gaza. Yesterday, noteworthy that the new Haifa Bay port was inaugurated after 15 years of planning and construction. For the first time, large ships will be able to dock in Israel. All sounds like good news, right? except for the fact that it's owned and run by, over the next 25 years, that is, the Chinese Shanghai International Port Group. That's right. The Chinese are in charge of the largest major port in Israel. The U.S. has said we're not going to be sending our Navy ships in the port of Haifa any longer. But again, who knows with the Biden administration what we're going to do and what we're not going to do. Well, that's our news bites. As I mentioned, the slide number 7 pays tribute to Barel Shimuli, the IDF soldier that was slain. Some interesting things in my mind that's happening in Israel right now is that, as I mentioned, Benny Gantz met with Mahmoud Abbas last week, high-level talks. It appears that the two were discussing security, diplomacy, economics, civil affairs. Gantz has told Abbas that Israel is ready for a series of measures that would strengthen the Palestinians' economy. They're discussing shaping security and economic realities in Judea, Samaria, and Gaza. I think the big issue here is that there are some in Israel that are saying, is Benny Gantz trying to pull a coup against Naftali Bennett? Is he undermining him in any way by taking this meeting? What did Naftali Bennett know? What didn't he know? We know that this coalition government in Israel is paper thin, and it's interesting to see the motives behind all of this. Of course, the right wings aspects of this coalition are up in arms that Gantz would actually meet with Abbas, but apparently it just seems like Gantz is sort of mobilizing his electorate, his supporters. Again, paper thin. Israel's government's much different than ours. We don't need to wait another 3 years. They don't need to wait 3 years to vote. They can simply state that there's no confidence in the government, which would send them back to elections once again. So we'll wait and see on that one. With that being said, Naftali Bennett is now meeting this week with the Egyptian president, Abdul al-Sisi, in Sharm el-Sheikh. And it seems that this meeting is going to be, the discussions here is going to begin talking once again about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. We know that the Biden meeting with Naftali Bennett must have included something in terms of a two-state solution movement in that area. We know that the U.S. is pushing for a Palestinian embassy to be opened in Jerusalem, and there's some kickback from that. But with Gantz meeting with Abbas and now with Bennett meeting with Egypt and discussing potential movements that we haven't heard of for the last, 6-7 years, it's interesting to see sort of the what's next scenario here. And I think in this meeting with Egypt and Israel, I think Sisi's set to take part in a summit with Abbas next week, along with King Abdullah from Jordan. Again, topic, resolution of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. A couple other things before we go. Lebanon. Hezbollah seems like it's got some issues, some concerns with the Lebanese people. As Lebanon sinks deeper into poverty, many Lebanese are more openly criticizing the Iranian-backed Hezbollah. They blame the group, along with the ruling class, for the devastating multiple crises that are plaguing the country, including a dramatic currency crash and severe shortages in medicines and fuel. There was a time when Hezbollah could do no wrong. They were almost sacred in Lebanon. But that tide seems to be changing. And it'll be interesting to see, because recently when some of the rockets were launched into Israel, apparently the people that were launching it were apprehended, held up. Scuffle broke out between the Lebanese and Hezbollah. So it's no longer just a green pass to do whatever they want. So it'll be interesting to see. Once again, I know that this is an ongoing statement, interesting to see what's next, but how much support will there be? Because where your treasure is, there your heart is also. This economy is crashing. Well, this next week on Tuesday, we begin the High Holy Days, SHANA TOVA. We begin with the Feast of Trumpets, or Rosh Hashanah, the head of the new year. Then that's followed by 10 days of reflection, known as the 10 days of awe, and it culminates in Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. For me, this is a time that I try to prepare myself to evaluate my actions over the last year. It's a time to reflect and to make see a new chapter in my life, and seek the Lord as to the things that I need to get rid of and the things that I need to be doing. So I want to encourage you to take advantage of this time. We'll be having a special teaching on Rosh Hashanah that we'll have on our YouTube channel. So I hope you'll be able to take that in. But again, Shana Tova, Happy New Year. May it be sweet, and may 2020 be in 2021. May they change for us as we move into the future the next year. May we see an end to this pandemic, and may God open the doors to Israel once again. So with that, God bless you, and shalom.